So first you need to navigate in your canvas to your assignments and find the assignment called App Icon Design. So you're going to right click on the Uber logo and you're going to say Save Image As. And you want to put that into a folder where you'll be able to find it, and you'll save that first. So I'm going to share with you then to go to Illustrator. So I'm going to look for my Adobe Illustrator and open it up. So you're going to just create a new project. You can go to Create New and you can pick any size really. What I want you to call it is Uber Design, and then you can put your initials. I'm going to show you a bit around Illustrator. This is your artboard. This is where all your designs are going to originally come in. It's kind of like your piece of paper, so to speak. Then over here on the left are your tools. Then over here on the right are your panels. These are going to change with the tools you use. Up at the top is your menu. So each of these menus has a different purpose. The first thing I want you to do is to change a bit of the appearance of your Illustrator. If your appearance doesn't look like this and you need to reset it, what you can do is go to Window and then go to Workspace and then Reset Essentials, and that will just reset it to be what you want originally for it to be. I need you to add some other panels over here to the right that we're going to use for today. So to set up your screen, you're going to go to Window, and I want you to make sure that your layers is selected, and I want you to also make sure that your Pathfinder is selected, and that will bring in a Pathfinder panel. You can just make sure that it's over here with the rest of your panels, and you should also have your layers panel. Let's go ahead and add our reference image. I'm going to go to File, Place, and this way it's going to bring up all of our files in our computer. I know I saved mine in DDA1, so I'm going to download that. It's the Uber PNG, and I'm going to click on Place. This is essentially importing an image into your Illustrator canvas, and I'll just click. And now I have a JPEG of my Uber logo. Notice that if I resize it, it can mess up the proportions. If you need to resize it, hold down Shift on your keyboard while you resize it. And notice that anytime you hold down Shift on your keyboard while you resize something, it'll keep the proportions equal. The next thing we want to do is to take our reference image and to go to our layers panel and locate our reference image in there. And what we're going to do is we're going to rename it by double clicking on the layer. So this is the layer for our reference image. We know this because if I hide my image, it will go away. And I will go ahead and rename this by double clicking here, reference, and now I'm going to lock this layer. What locking the layer does is I can no longer click on this and edit it. So if I have it unlocked, notice anytime I click on it, it'll be selected. If I lock it, it basically makes it a part of my background. And that's useful because in the future steps we're going to be drawing all over the sky. In order to recreate this logo, I'm going to create a new layer. And I'm going to go to my layers panel here, and I'm going to go to the bottom. There's an icon called Create New Layer. I'll click on that. And this layer too is going to be my vector. So anything in here is going to be used to create the total image. If we look at this thing, we could basically divide it into shapes. So essentially, if I were to divide my logo into basic shapes, it would look something like this. But it needs to be thinner than that. I need to actually combine smaller shapes to create larger shapes. So the first shape I'm going to create is going to be my background. I'm going to go to my tools panel. I'm going to click on my rectangle tool, which is in my polygon tool options. Notice if I click and hold, I see different shapes that are available to me, but I want to stick with the rectangle for now. I'm going to start off by drawing this square as my background of my icon. And I can just click and drag, and then it will create that square. If it's not perfectly aligned to your shape, that's okay. You can use these squares on the lines to adjust the height and the width so that it perfectly aligns. Notice that I have just an outline to my shape and no fill. I'll share with you how I could get my shape to look like that. So you may have, on yours, you may have a fill, which will basically be filling in this shape that you're drawing with a color. You want to make sure that when you're creating the backbone to the shape, you have no fill. And you want to add a stroke. The stroke is basically this border here. You want to make it a bright color that isn't in the background, and you want to make it about 3 or 4 points, excuse me. So I have my background, but it doesn't look quite perfect, right? If I were to look at the corners here, I have in my shape square corners, but I need rounded corners. So what I'm going to do is adjust what's called the anchor points of this shape. So if I think about it, my rectangle is essentially made of 4 points that are connected together by lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. These circles adjust the shape of your corners. What I'm going to do is hold down Shift on my keyboard so that I adjust them all at once and just drag in until they meet the shape of my background. And notice if I hold down Shift, they'll all adjust at once. I could drag them in more and make a circle, but I'm just going to drag them in just to that point where they're matching the background. So once I finish this, I want to go ahead and name this layer here. And it's if I drop down in my vector layers, I see all the objects on that layer. My first object is called rectangle. It's my only object right now. And what I'm going to do is rename this by double clicking. I'm going to rename this background. And then I'm going to lock it. So if I lock this at this point now, I cannot touch the background. I can't edit it. It's perfect how it is, so I lock it down. Now I need to continue building, so I'm going to repeat the step I just did. I'm going to bring in a little square into this middle part, and I'm just going to trace it out. And again, I can go into those corners, hold down Shift, and just click and drag, and I'll get the little corners of the inset shape. So from there, what I want to do is create another rectangle. This rectangle needs to overlap, and this is going to be basically the joining shape from the outside of the inside to the C, or this circle. So this shape needs to go here, and basically this is going to connect my outside to this shape in here. But we need to make this shape into one. So what I'm going to do is select my long rectangle, and then I'm going to also select my little rectangle. Holding down Shift on my keyboard and clicking, I now have both of them selected. I could also click and drag, and I'll get both objects selected that way. You know they're both selected because there's this red box around them, and then also there are these red dots here to the right in the layers panel. Now at this point I need to make these two shapes into one. The way I'm going to do that is to bring up my Pathfinder tool, which is right here. I'm going to share with you right now what the Pathfinder tool does. Don't worry about following along with these steps. These are purely for demonstration. So imagine I have two different shapes, and I'm trying to make these two shapes become one. There's several ways I could combine these shapes. So first I'll select both of them, and then I go to the Pathfinder. And as you can see, I have these 4 basic options under Pathfinder. My first option is uniting or merging all the shapes to create one compound shape. If I click on that, notice that the borders between the shapes were erased, and now I just have this complicated compound shape that's basically built from both of these shapes together. My second option is the minus front. With this option, whatever shape is on top will be subtracted from the one on bottom, kind of like a cookie cutter going into cookie dough. So if I click that, notice that this shape which was here just cut into this shape and disappeared. So now this shape has a special curve in it. Now I'm going to share with you